definitely a weird one, and definitely a weird one for the Atlanta Hawks as they come off a quick turnaround. They lose. They win on Friday night, pardon me, against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that pins them in a game one scenario on Sunday at 1 p.m. So some people are calling this a schedule loss, which cool, whatever. I could definitely see that. And I was on the Hawks on Friday night against the Cavs. And I mean, talked about Trae Young being ready for that performance where he's shimmying at the logo and like waving to the crowd, waving bye to the crowd at the end of the game in Cleveland. Poor Cleveland. But anyways, that leads them, your win, your victory, your prize for that performance on Friday night. Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m. tip-off in Miami. Heat roll 115-91, and the Heat easily cover the spread. I'm pretty sure it was 4.5, if I'm not mistaken. Things got spicy in that game. Jimmy Butler was dunking, getting hype. Trae Young, him and Trae Young are face-to-face. But Miami looked as great as Miami can look. We look towards game 2, and there's a question of the schedule loss or not. I say, right, the line is now up to 7.5 for the Miami Heat. I honestly think that's way too high. I do think this is the Heat are a bad matchup for Trae Young. They obviously, it's a differently coached team. Coach Spo's game plan, instead of trying to trap Trae Young, is just to switch everything on to Trae Young. And now it's like, okay, Trae Young's going to hunt a screen. Okay, I just screened to get Jimmy Butler on me. Okay, I just screened to get Bam on me. It's like, good job, good effort, right? But it doesn't make sense. So Trae Young's got to figure that out. There will be an adjustment. 7.5, way too much, though. Give me the Hawks to cover in game 2, but I think they lose still.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can see that. Certainly that makes a ton of sense. Just quick cleanup, and listen, who would blame you? Because it seemed like every game was a 4.5 point spread at one point. That line closed 6.5 in that game 1, which, obviously makes sense. And something that, like, people will talk like, oh, I don't say voodoo or whatever, but like, we talk like narrative type stuff and blah, blah, blah. But like, yeah, like going, traveling off, for a game on Friday and then traveling around back to Miami, for this game. Again, early start time. And this game was over in the second quarter, right? It was like 19-point game at halftime, something along those lines. And so, yeah, like it's hard not to say that that's a schedule loss, but like, it's also easy to say it after the fact, right? And we all should have, the betting society as a whole should have just piled in on Miami when we saw that. But because, it's one of those deals. I was on
Miami, but I didn't win as much as I should have. You're correct.
Right, but that's what I mean. Right? We should all be on an island somewhere because like we all piled in. The way that people bet the Raptors or the Celtics should have been the way that we had all bet this, except for we didn't have a week to think about it, right? That game ends on Friday night. And then all of a sudden, Saturday, and then boom, like the game might've started by the time you even realized that it was on Sunday. And so we didn't get that like momentum of like, hey, shouldn't we all just be betting this? Shouldn't we all just be betting this? Because 6.5 probably shouldn't have scared us away. And it certainly didn't scare you away in a more regular, responsible betting situation. So yeah, like if that is the case, right? Vice versa, if you will, ipso facto, we should probably be taking Atlanta plus the 7.5 because we see the full point adjustment here. And you and I talked about it last week, right? When we see these games and how they get adjusted, if they get adjusted from game to game, right? Like they don't, by and large, right? They get adjusted a half point here, a point there. We talked about the Barnes injury and the blowout being the biggest adjustment so far of any of these series. And so we just look at this and go, okay, we're getting an extra point here. You mentioned the issues that maybe Trae Young will have. And obviously, if that's the case, then we're going to be way wrong about this. But I don't think this is necessarily anything crazy. Now, again, we're looking at this going, okay, we had Boston minus 3.5 for game 2. And now we're just firing away on all these underdogs in a league where the game can get away pretty quickly. And you can have 15 to 20 point victories with really not that much effort because of obviously how many possessions there are in an NBA basketball game. So I'm not loving this necessarily, but like I understand, like it's more of a theoretical thing, right? If they're getting beat up here because they weren't ready to go And we can all understand why that was the case. And it was less of a matchup issue and less of a sort of indication of what these two teams are when they are both at sort of full strength on an even playing field. Miami with a week off, just sitting at home, like that had blowout spot written all over it. And again, that is hindsight being 2020. So I say that with a grain of salt, knowing that I didn't wail in on the Miami Heat in that game. So I'm sort of kicking myself from that standpoint. Do I want to come back in on Atlanta, lose that, and now I'm feeling like, man, I really missed an easy one in game one, and now I've gone, even as much as we saw from game one, I'm going back. Not back to the well necessarily, but coming in on game two and losing that too. This might just end up being a series. I wasn't going to say that I'm going to pass on in its entirety because we don't have anything series wide for this series. This might be just a pick your spot in Atlanta, maybe in a game 3, game 4 type of a situation for me. So I get the idea. I would totally, if you made me pick, I would certainly take the 7.5 points here with the Hawks. But this is more just, again, kind of the reverse, honestly, of Milwaukee, where, we're in a good spot to bet the Bulls here for a second straight time. I'm in a really bad spot to try to hop in here, sort of hopscotching my way into this series, or double dutching, I guess would be the correct skipping term. Double dutching my way into this series and trying not to get hit in the face with a skipping rope.
Yeah, this is basically a bet on the Hawks, getting to settle into the series after, they're winning said Super Bowl Friday night and then having to recover quickly, whether it's physically or mentally, to have that turnaround. And then now you're playing that type of defense. That's a different ball game. And Trae Young didn't adjust well. You heard Nate McMillan kind of what I like to affectionately call sneak dissing, right? Where he was talking about how Trae Young, and you kind of got to figure things out, right? Because Spo watched how the Cavs played it, and there's a lot more trapping involved, and Trae Young was able to navigate through that, find open guys, do his thing, and then find his shot in the second half. Well, he just didn't do that at all. He had one field goal in that game, and he was all trying to figure out, I see PJ Tucker on this switch. I'm going to try to go hard at PJ Tucker. Well, PJ Tucker can give you one solid defensive possession, right? And at least make things tough on you. So It's just going to be another adjustment, and I'm kind of putting the points, giving Atlanta this one chance here, right, to cover that spread. So we'll see how that goes.